Now to the foreign scene, French President Emmanuel Macron names Francois Bayrou as new Prime Minister as the United Nations says Syrian new leadership is existing and encouraging stance and the rest of the world should join hands to rebuild Syria. Kolo Mohammed brings us details.
French politician Bayrou, leader of the Centre Modern Party and seen as one of President Emmanuel Macron's possible picks for Prime Minister, arrived at the Elysee Palace in Paris as Macron prepared to name a new Prime Minister on Friday after days of deadlock over finding a candidate. The choice for a new Prime Minister became imperative soon after the French Parliament passed a no-confidence vote on the government headed by former Prime Minister Barnier, who had to resign soon after. President Macron was mandated to keep the government functional, and this he could only achieve with a Prime Minister in place. Mr. Bayrou's first task is to form a new government and get France working again. The priority for Bayrou, analysts say, will be passing a social law to roll over the 2024 budget, with a nastier battle over the 2025 legislation looming early next year. Parliamentary pushback over 2025 bill led to the downfall of former Prime Minister Michel Barnier's government. In other news, the United Nations has affirmed the Syrian new interim authorities are sending out constructive signals as they have asked the UN Refugee Agency to remain in the country following the ouster of President Bashar al-Assad.
The fact that, we saw the roads as we traveled, there were Syrians moving from one location to another, and without the type of constant checkpoints that we saw during the previous regime. Of course, we will need to see whether that type of freedom of movement that is being witnessed at this moment will continue.
The International Committee of the Red Cross, meanwhile, highlights the towering task ahead to help Syrian families whose loved ones disappeared under the Assad rule. Families are seen carrying belongings to a border crossing in Turkey's southern Kilis province as they return home following the fall of the Assad regime.
We are now waiting, and I hope it will be imminent, a more formal meeting with the right authority to propose the ICRC services and to be able to pass the key messages we wanted to pass on the need to preserve information and burial sites, as well as any other element that may help the families in the future to identify the whereabouts and the fate of their beloved ones.
Hundreds of thousands inside Syria sing, dance, and wave flags in Umayyad Square in Damascus after country's rulers called on people to celebrate the victory of the revolution. More than half of a century of brutal rule by the Assad clan came to a sudden end on Sunday after a lightning rebel offensive led by Abu Muhammad al-Jolani's group. Kola Muhammad, NTA News.
Somaliland, the breakaway region of Somalia, inaugurated its new president following last month's election, which strengthened its quest for international recognition. With alarm raised in Uganda following suicide tendencies amongst refugees, Kola Mohammed once again brings us details.
As the new president of Somaliland, Abdullahi sets the record straight during his inaugural speech. He said his new government's first job is to renew its relationship with the rest of the world in order for Somaliland to be able to build a new nation that will help the security of the entire region, including the Red Sea. Abdullahi, 69 years of age, from the opposition Wandami Party, won over 50% of the votes cast in the presidential elections held on November 13, 2024, defeating Bihi, who was aiming for a second term after 7 years in office. The Electoral Commission verified the result, emphasizing the significant voter turnout and the peaceful nature of the elections as evidence of Somaliland's democratic strength. In other news, a silent but alarming crisis is unfolding at the Kirandongo refugee camp in Uganda. The worsening mental health of refugees, exacerbated by harsh living conditions and past trauma, has led to a troubling rise in suicides. According to a UN survey, 41 suicides were recorded between January and October 2024, along with 130 attempts. The troubling issue the refugees say is as bad as spiritual attack, which they deal with even while asleep. Kolom Hamad, NTA News.